Hey there, welcome to School of Emo, the podcast where we dive into the world of emo, pop punk, and everything in between. If you've ever found yourself in your car screaming the lyrics to Taking Back Sunday, wearing way too much eyeliner in the early 2000s, adding a buckle or a chain to every outfit you've put on, you are in the right place. I'm Erin Judge, and each week I will be your fellow student, guiding you through the music, the culture, and the history that shaped an entire generation of angsty teens. I am not the teacher of this school. I am a fellow student, here to learn alongside you and from you. Together, we will cover a lot of information that doesn't really matter, but will remind us of the days of stalking MySpace channels and getting lost in chat rooms. So connect your dial-up, turn on your webcam, and let's go to School of Emo. Welcome back to School of Emo. I'm your host, Erin Judge, and today we are going to do a recap of When We Were Young 2024. We are behind on this because I meant to start this podcast before When We Were Young and then recap it more quickly, and I just didn't have time. I went into the holidays and did not start it, and then the cruise happened. I recap that. I wanted to set the stage for the podcast as a whole before just doing recaps of concerts and festivals and all of those things. So we're a little bit late to the party, but the second day of When We Were Young 2025 was recently opened to the public. So if you're considering purchasing tickets, I will share my honest review of the festival, my own experience of it. I am not going again this year, and I'll share why, but hopefully it gives you some perspective, or you can just enjoy listening to the story of me going to this festival. It's really not that dramatic. I'm almost 33 years old, and I went as a 30-something-year-old in a very tame way, but I had the time of my life, loved it, gained a new appreciation for festivals, and would highly recommend going if you are considering it because of the experience I had. So why did we decide to go? What's the origin story of When We Were Young? I don't know when the festival actually started. This is not a history of the festival itself. I think it has been going on for a few years. And I remember in 2023, seeing people go. I've told you in the past, like Yellow Card was always my favorite band. They played it in 2023. And I wanted to go because they were playing. And so it was like an introduction to this festival. And a few of my friends that I was connected to on social media, they were going. I started seeing TikToks of people going, and I was really intrigued. However, in 2023, it was already sold out. I think I could have gotten last minute tickets. The tickets were pretty high. The travel was a lot. It was during a month where we were already traveling quite a bit. And I was terrified of going to a festival. I've never really gone to a true festival. I've gone to some that I've won tickets for, like smaller festivals, but I've never been fully in a festival where I love every band. I want to see every band. I'm going to be there from open to the very end. And I was really anxious about it. I shared this a little bit in my own kind of personal story in episode 1, that I am an energy conserver. I have a lot of anxiety. I have a lot of social anxiety. I have irritable bowel syndrome, and I really care about my health and how I feel. And I have a lot of concerns about safety, all the above. And I've always considered festivals to be something that only young people do. I thought that they would be scary. I thought that I would feel terrible by the end of the day. I wouldn't survive it, whatever. So I was too scared to try to go. But in 2024, when the lineup was announced for When We Were Young, they announced My Chemical Romance being kind of the end biggest headliner of the show. And My Chemical Romance is one that I loved growing up. I loved some of the hits, but I really started like truly loving and appreciating their music over the last few years, like getting into more than just like the top songs or the Black Parade, that world of My Chemical Romance. And so I've never gotten to see them live. They've done, the mega tours. I also don't love arena shows or those types of stadium shows, things like that. Price points are always a lot higher. It's a lot more crazy to get a ticket to begin with. Whenever I maybe would have gone, like we didn't have the money to go, so it was never something I was able to be a part of. I've never seen them live. And they're not really together. Maybe they are. We need to do a deep dive into them. But they kind of just like pop up, do a tour, and then leave, right? And they hadn't announced a tour in a while. And so they were coming to do the Black Parade all the way through. We're kind of at the anniversary of the Black Parade. And I was thinking about it for months after I'd, seen everyone talk about it. People were hinting towards like what they thought was going to happen and, all these things. And I remember talking with my husband about it. I was like, oh, I just really want to see My Chemical Romance. I don't know if they'll ever tour again. Like, there's no sign that they're coming back together. What if this is the only chance that we have to see them? I really want to see them. When We Were Young was in October. I believe it was like late August or early September, just over a month, like a month and a half ish from the actual festival. They'd already announced day 2 tickets. So day 1, Saturday, was already sold out. Day 2 had been announced, wasn't sold out yet. And I, talked with my husband about it, and we decided that if I could get some brand deals for the trip, that we would cover and go. So I had an open door. We had like flight points, hotel points, so we could make that work. All good. We were available those days. It was around my husband's birthday. And so I reached out to some brands. I work in the IBS gut health space. I do a lot of social media content in that space for my actual job. And so I reached out to a handful of brands and I was like, hey, what do you think about festival specific content? Because I was going to be utilizing a lot of resources for my gut, my health during the festival anyways. Made it work out, got at least our tickets covered with those deals. I worked for them, but at least got some extra income to make it work. And we decided to go. So a month and a half before, they don't give you the actual schedule. I think it was 2 weeks or a week before, which was very stressful. So we sign up, we wait to get like our little armbands, and there's not a lot of information. Like, we know where it is generally. I believe the festival map wasn't even available at that time. So if you are someone who loves to plan ahead like me, just be prepared. Your anxiety will be high. I was very anxious. I was like, I knew all the bands that were going. I knew the lineup, and I knew that pretty like 75% of the bands I would like to see. And this was the year, I think that they've done this other years as well, but all the bands played like an album through. Like, that was the whole kind of gist of the festival, is that every band would play one album that was like core to like When We Were Younger, kind of Warped Tour at its finest, like 2006-ish era. And so the bands were playing like their top albums. And so there were just so many that I wanted to see. We didn't know what the schedule would be, how to make that work out, because there were way too many bands. You can't see everybody. That's just how it works. If you go 2 days, I still feel like you can't see everybody. Too many people are competing with times. So a week before, or 2 weeks, I can't remember, but they released the schedule. And so we were able to kind of map it out, plan our schedule. And thankfully, when we actually got there, a lot of the stages were a lot closer than I thought. So it was much easier. Like, we had a lot of optional options on our schedule. It was actually easier to see even our optional bands, or eat while we're watching a band, like go to the bathroom really quickly, get back, still see most of the set, than I expected going into it. A lot of the reviews I had read of people who had gone previously, like, people mentioned that it was like the bathroom lines were way too long. So we did the general admission plus option to get like the air conditioned bathrooms. I don't know if that actually made a bigger difference or not, but we did have like a little space where we had bathrooms. They were cleaned consistently. There wasn't vomit in them. That was nice. The air conditioning was not a thing. I didn't feel that. The bathrooms were still kind of stuffy during the heat of the day, but it was cool in the morning, cold in the evening. Overall weather was fine. They had like extra food in that space. Like, they had tents, they had your own water stations. So that was nice. I felt like it was worth it. I don't know how much it would have been worth it, because we didn't do regular general admission, that we didn't want to like put up the price for VIP. And I've heard from others that VIP, there is like a little standing room, but it's pretty small. So if too many people do VIP, it actually may not be worth it as well. And then even getting to the VIP areas is more complicated than just getting to the stages. So navigating the stages throughout your schedule can be a lot harder. So we didn't do that. We did general admission plus. But I also heard that it was too far to walk between the stages, like your feet were going to hurt, all that stuff. So I planned ahead for it, but honestly, it was not that bad if you have a decent fitness level where you can walk. And obviously, if you're wearing comfortable shoes and being mindful to sit down when you can, it's totally fine. We were there from open doors all the way until everybody left at the very end. My feet were definitely hurting by the end. I wore my most comfortable shoes that I have for concerts, like my really thick uh, foam Puma shoes that are just super, super comfy. We sat through most of the morning, kind of midday sets. Whenever we were eating, we sat just to give ourselves that extra time. But there was plenty of space for it. They had screens at most of the stages. Pretty much every stage had a screen. So if you were at the back, you could see what was happening. The sound was decent, not perfect if you were too far back from the big sets, but overall, sound was decent. Definitely a good experience, no matter where you were in the crowd, and lots of ways to make it work for you, your body, what you need, which I found to be really helpful. I don't know how accessible it was if you need like the accessibility option, because we didn't go that route. We didn't need that, but I found it to be pretty easy to navigate and to handle on my body. Now, we didn't drink alcohol. We stayed very hydrated. We brought our own electrolytes, all those things. So that could obviously change how you feel. We also ate consistently and like made sure that we were both hydrated and nourished throughout the day so we could feel our best. We also prioritized sleep as much as we could the night before, really made sure that we were going to feel good because of my anxieties. So that might be also why we felt so good and it worked out really well. So we got there. The festival grounds, it's in Vegas. I don't like Vegas. My husband and I, we hate Vegas. It's dirty. I feel like it's so fake. Like everything looks nice, sort of from a distance, but you get closer and it's like, oh, like that's not even real brick. And like just, it has like a gross, like it's overpriced and there's such a facade of like something being luxury or nice. And it's just not. It's very dirty, very kind of dark and hopeless and sad, I think. So we didn't love Vegas. We got there the day before the festival, Saturday. We, did a few things. We walked through the different like casino hotels to see the spaces. Didn't love it. Casinos absolutely hate. Like they just seem so, ugh. That's the only way I can describe it. We're not gamblers. We didn't do any of that. The food we ate was just okay. Like we should have researched that a little bit better, but we didn't really have great positive food experiences. So it was just all just okay. But the day of the festival, we decided to take the train, and they gave you directions for this in the kind of welcome pre-festival info. We didn't stay at one of the hotels closest. We got a really cheap, like Marriott kind of hotel motel situation, like in Vegas still, but a little further down. But it was right across the street from a train stop or the tram that they have going, which was great. So we were able to just cross like a major street, take the tram, and then that took us to kind of another hotel. And then we walked kind of through that hotel, around another hotel down the street. It was like a 10 to 15-minute walk from there to the festival grounds. We got there as the doors opened, very tame. As soon as you walk in, you're able to you can take like a water hydration pack. So we brought those. We each had our own, my husband and I, and then we packed like some snacks, electrolyte powders. I packed like ibuprofen, different supplements I needed, all that stuff in the bag, my phone, a charger pack, everything. And then we were able to fill up with water. And then they have like the entry area that you could take photos, which was fun. So you had plenty of space to take photos, do what you needed there, which was pretty cool. So we did that. We found some shade. We kind of got the lay of the land. We went and walked through to see all the stages to kind of feel out, okay, what stages were we going to go to throughout the day? Which bands do we care the most about? How would we navigate that area? Are there screens? And realized that the two main stages were right beside each other, which I should have fully recognized. I just didn't know that it was going to be quite as simple. We looked at all the food options, so we knew kind of where we would want to go back for lunch or what we needed. I wish they had coffee. We really wanted coffee. We ended up getting like this like canned coffee, and it was not very good. Like it's definitely very alcohol or soda heavy. They had ice cream and things like that, but they definitely needed like a good cold brew. That's all I wanted to start the day. I was like, I just want a cold brew, like a big caffeine hit. You don't get it. So if you want coffee, go to Starbucks at the hotel before and stay there and then go. But that's okay. Maybe this year they'll have coffee. So we got there, I think we got there around like 9:30 or 10. The first set was 11:50 or was earlier than 11:15. But the first set we were going to see was 11:15. I think the first set was actually 10:30. So we were already at the main stages for the first set, which was Daisy Grenade. We did not have them on our schedule, but since it was the pink stage, we were going to be at the purple stage. They're right beside each other. We were already there. We just sat in the grass and enjoyed their set. And they were so fun, very high energy. I was like, okay, if they're ever opening for a band, I'd be into it. Very new, not a throwback band. They're a newer band, but it was cool to see them. So they kicked it off with so much energy, and it was a smaller crowd at the start. I heard just from other people's reviews of the weekend that day two was less crowded than day one. So we had a good experience with that. So if you're considering that too, maybe Sunday is the day to go. But definitely in the morning, it felt like the crowd was really low. Like you could be at the front, you could get a spot pretty easily. So we saw the end of Daisy Grenade set. And then our first set on our schedule was LS Dunes on the purple stage. So much fun. Again, not necessarily an old band, but members of all these iconic bands coming together. But they had a lot of energy for 11:15 in the morning, starting things off. So that was really fun. Incredible sound. That set alone really made me excited because we sat for a lot of it, preserved our energy, but it was that feeling that, oh, this is going to be such a good day. Like the sound is good, the performance is good, we were comfortable, everything was great. I had to buy sunglasses. My sunglasses broke on the way, but it's like, okay, the sun isn't too bad. Like everything's good. Everything's good. People are happy. It was a perfect way to start it off. It made me really excited. We stayed at that stage to see someone else performed on the other stage in between LS Dunes. And then we saw Mayday Parade, which was really good. Always a classic. And then after that, we grabbed lunch and then kind of hung around. So we watched Mayday Parade, kind of hung around that area as we grabbed lunch. Under Oath on the pink stage, our first time seeing Under Oath. Just did a full recap on Under Oath, deep dive into Under Oath. That was our first time like fully seeing them and experiencing them. I think I saw them way back in the day, but that didn't count because I wasn't fully in it. But they performed They're Only Chasing Safety. Incredible. This was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but we slowly started like inching our way closer. I have so much anxiety. I'm pretty sure I'm 5'4". I have a lot of anxiety being in a tight crowd. And I started getting comfortable. My husband's 6'4", so he was behind me, but we got a little closer. It's like, okay, I can see where like it's not so bad. And I can see the screen where I'm involved more. Like everything's good. I feel safe. And I really did, honestly, throughout the whole day. I felt pretty safe around the people. People seemed to be pretty respectful, even though we were packed like sardines. One hack that I brought that really hit during the Under Oath set was a little fan. You can bring those. So I had one just attached to my backpack, water pack. And it really helped with like the smells around me and even just feeling a little suffocated, like having the fan just like low, kind of blowing up onto my face as I'm looking up. That helped a lot with like grounding my body, calming myself down, keeping myself cool, because it did get a little overwhelming, but it was okay. So Under Oath, then we saw Dashboard. They were right after Under Oath. We saw like half of their set. So good. I feel like they should have been earlier. Like probably they should have been before Under Oath or even Mayday Parade, just because a little bit more of like ballads and slower and more talking. Like Chris Carrabba is a gem and national treasure, but I feel like the energy should pick up versus kind of slow down. It did slow a little bit, but we kind of moved to the back, sat, just enjoyed the beauty of Chris Carrabba, and then took a bathroom break. And then we got in position at the Ghost stage. So we spent most of our time in the big stages and one part of the kind of the right side of the festival, but we had to make our way to the other side, so more of the left side, kind of middle area, which is where Story of the Year was performing. One of our favorite bands to see live. We wanted a good spot. We wanted to be there for the whole set. So we got there a little bit early and kind of sat in the shade for a little bit where we could, and then enjoyed their set. Theirs was a little bit rowdier, I think, because the crowd size was smaller. So we were kind of in the middle of it. So definitely got shoved quite a bit as people were doing like the mosh pits, the circle pits, all the things. And that crowd was kind of split. So there was like a split middle section for some reason. So we were on one side, but it did create a little bit more chaos with the crowd itself being smaller, if that makes sense. But incredible set, as always. As always. I feel like they should have deserved a bigger set on a bigger stage. But I will always say that they kind of get the short end of the stick and are very underrated. All right. So after story of the year, we took another bathroom break, calmed ourselves for a bit. We found a shady spot because at this point in the day, the sun was blazing. That was around 3 p.m. And so they finished around like 3:30, 3:45. And so the sun was really hot. We kind of covered our heads. I brought a hoodie because I thought it was going to get cold in the evening, and people, like the Reddit forums and everything, people recommended you bring something. I did not need it. I wore shorts, like some longer shorts with like tights, like fishnet tights underneath, boots or those sneakers, and then a tank top. And that would have gotten me through the whole night. So I wish I would not have brought the sweatshirt, but it did work really well as a shade. So that was nice because the shaded areas, were a few for the festival that had like chairs and like softer ground to sit on. They were always really crowded after the doors had opened. A lot of people spent their time there. I don't understand it because, again, we were watching sets pretty much the whole time we were there, beyond like getting food in the line or going to the bathroom or taking like a quick 10-minute sit down break to breathe and kind of drink our water for a bit. I don't know how people spent so much time in those relaxing spaces unless they were drunk or really struggling. I don't know, but it was very hot. The sun was intense. We had some sunscreen. My husband and I don't burn too easily, which is something we're thankful for. But during this time, we found like a spot to sit, cover our heads for a little bit, cool down a bit. And then we went to the far left stage. So we were pretty close to it, the Alliance stage, to see the Main, which is one of my husband's favorite bands of recent. Again, high energy. They did not have as much of a crowd, which I was really surprised in. And you could kind of tell we saw them at Sad Summer Fest the summer before, the year before. And they in Nashville, and in Nashville, crowds are hard to play for because people don't always like interact as much or really get into it. Like you kind of get a lot of people sitting, arms crossed, just kind of nodding their heads. It's kind of the Nashville way. But the lead singer got really frustrated in Nashville because the crowd was just not giving the energy back and like, wasn't dancing or singing along or whatever. The same was true for their set when we were young. He seemed a little frustrated that people weren't singing the songs. I think he was frustrated that he had to play an album. A lot of the bands mentioned that they were frustrated that they were playing albums all the way through, that people didn't know every word to every song. Albums were not really set to like be a normal set, if that makes sense. Like all the hits are on the front side and then they slow down and then you kind of lose the crowd. And so their set was the first one of the day that really felt like that drop in energy. But he did his best and he was great. The band was great. I think he just was frustrated. So he did have like this girl come on stage who wanted to come sing, but she was like very drunk. And it was funny. Not my favorite set of the day for that reason, but it was still good. And we had more of a shady spot, which was nice. This was 4 o'clock. And then after that, we wanted to make our way back to the big stages for the rest of the night. And the Used was coming on. We knew we were going to see the Used on the Emo's Not Dead cruise in February. So just a couple of months later. So we decided during their set, we get food, go to the bathroom, do everything we needed. And we actually sat in the grass at the back. So the stage is set up and there's like a lot of grass space all the way back to like the paved area where all the vendors are, but the screens and the music are all very like easy to access. You can see even the stage from sitting way back in the back, but you can definitely see the screens because they're huge and they have one on each side of each stage, and then all four are going. That makes sense. So even if you're on the right stage, the two screens on the left stage, they're showing what's going on the right stage. So there's plenty of space to see what's happening. So for their set, we went and got food. I got nachos. I forgot what I had for lunch. Finding food was interesting. I think lunch we had like Daddy's Dogs was there. They're also in Nashville. They have a good veggie dog. I'm a pescatarian. So I got a veggie dog and like fries or chips for lunch. And then for dinner, I got like this loaded nachos, like vegan nachos, because there was a vegan place and they were delicious. So we got to sit for a little bit, eat our food, sing along, watch the screens. We weren't as involved for that one. And then we like got ourselves over to the left side stage because Pierce the Veil was coming on. So my two biggest bands I wanted to see were Pierce the Veil and My Chemical Romance. I'd seen Pierce the Veil that summer opening for Blink 182. And that's where I fell in love with Pierce the Veil. Like their energy, like they were so good. Their songs live just are so fun, which makes me appreciate the music I listen to so much more. So I'd been listening to them for months and I was like, I am in, I want to see them. And so we got ourselves like up as close as we could, which was kind of midway, but a really good spot to see their performance. Saw them, and we were still in a decent spot. Like the downside was if you got further up, the crowd was pretty tight, that it was a little tricky to get yourself back out of the crowd. And what would happen is if you got to a certain point, so sort of midway through the crowd where people were pushing forward, you were constantly moving forward because people would leave and you'd fill the space, right? People don't come in front of you. Like you kind of fill the spaces to get a good view. As a person that's short, I could not see the stage very well the closer we got. I would have to sit on my tippy toes or like maybe get an open space. I saw the screens more than anything. So it was more the energy of being close. Whereas my husband, because he's so much taller, saw above everybody. There's not a lot of tall people there. And so he saw every stage, which I am very jealous of. But we were already pretty close. So then we kind of shifted to the right to see Jimmy Eat World. We were supposed to see them at a festival we won tickets to that was in Alabama, like 2 to 3 weeks before when we were young. And we won the tickets. And I was like, oh, let's just go to one day. Jimmy Eat World was going to be there. Blink 182 was going to be there. And we were going to use it as like a prep day, but it flooded. So the festival didn't happen. We didn't actually get to see them. And so we were getting excited about Jimmy Eat World. Their set was a little bit of a struggle because they had to play Bleed American and all the top songs are at the beginning. And if they could have just played all their hits, it would have been way better. And they mentioned that, they recognized that. So it started strong and kind of dropped a little bit, but they were still great. And I mean, they're older and more mellow as a whole, but it was a lot of fun, but very different than the Pierce the Veil set. So we kind of ended up towards the right in the middle of the two stages a bit and pretty close. And we had planned on taking like a bathroom break and like maybe a snack break, getting settled before Fall Out Boy and My Chemical Romance kind of ended the night. And we wanted a good spot for My Chemical Romance. Well, right after Jimmy Eat World was A Day to Remember on the left side stage. A Day to Remember is one that I love so many of their songs, but I always forget their name. Don't come at me for it. I respect them now, but as they were performing, I was like, wait, I know this song. Wait, I know this song. I know this song. I know all their songs. Their set, especially I think coming out of the Jimmy Eat World set, which was a little bit more mellow and chill. This was A Day to Remember went on at 8:10 p.m. Everyone had already eaten dinner. People are settled. People are feeling good or altered in a lot of ways. And so when A Day to Remember started, which was da 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 da, that was it, right? So at the drop, let's go, crowd went wild. And we were pretty close. And unfortunately, we were very close to a group of these larger white fraternity looking dudes. And as a woman in America, that's the biggest red flag for me, right? They started going insane. They were throwing arms. It wasn't like moshing, like they weren't in that space, but they were clearly not respecting the people around them. It felt very violent, dangerous. And they had that white boy, like, there's no repercussions on my actions kind of thing, like party vibe. And I was like panicking. I was already stressed because I was like, we're in a good spot. I want to be here for My Chemical Romance. It's 8 o'clock. We're going to be here until almost midnight. I don't know if I can last 4 hours without going to the bathroom, without getting a snack, all these things. My anxiety kicked in. I started to panic and I told my husband, I was like, I think we need to get out of the crowd. I need to pause. I don't know if I can last as many hours as I need to here. If it was literally going to be A Day to Remember followed by My Chemical Romance, I would have stayed, but I didn't. And I missed such a high energy set. And I recognize that and I regret it. And I will see A Day to Remember again. Their set was incredible. The energy was insane. It was so good. I know a lot of people in their reviews of the festival have said that that was one of their favorite sets, and I regret missing it, but I had to take care of myself. I had to do what I needed to do for myself. And I'm glad I did because I was able to enjoy the rest of the night well. And I think I did need that break and that pause. I just wish I maybe would have waited and stayed through a day to remember and taken that pause during Fall Out Boy, but stayed for a little bit. We got through like that first song and I was like, I gotta go. So we left. The crowd could still hear and see everything. So again, we're not really missing out. We're just not in the crowd. We took a bathroom break and could still hear everything going on, still singing along to the songs. We grabbed a snack, I think like a slice of pizza or something. And then we sat kind of at the back of the grass, like on the paved area, because at this point, very full, very insane. And so we watched the rest of their set, just kind of sitting back. And then we got a little bit closer. We found like a little barricade area that we were going to stand at for. I had planned to be at the back for even My Chemical Romance because I was so scared. Like people talked about people kind of rushing the stage. And I'd been part of an experience like that with Taking Back Sunday back in the day. And it really scared me. You hear stories of people getting trampled at festivals. And I think too much about it. Right. And I'm fully aware and sober at this point. Right. So my anxiety is loud. And so I was like, oh, we're going to sit at the back probably to just be safe, like be comfortable, because I thought it was just going to be insane for MCR. So for Fall Out Boy, we were kind of towards the back, and I realized it just wasn't the same. So through a couple of songs, and Fall Out Boy they were the only band, I think, of the whole festival that got to play all their hits. And like they did kind of like an eras thing. So they had so much production. They changed outfits to match their different like eras of sound, which I think was important for them. I like Fall Out Boy. I think I respect them. I love their hits, obviously, but I'm not just a huge fan, but I've never seen them live. So it was really cool. And their set was cool. I don't know how people who maybe were bigger fans enjoyed it or not. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. But we watched theirs from afar, but about halfway through their set, I was like, this isn't the same. I feel like we need to like get ourselves up in the crowd because I'm going to be disappointed at experiencing MCR this way. And the reason is that you're further back. So like the sound isn't as strong. So you hear people talking around you more, like there's more distractions. And it's like, we did not pay this money and come this far to see the Black Parade played all the way through and people talking around us about stupid things. Like I'm just not into it. So we started slowly making our way up through the crowd for the rest of Fall Out Boy. Feet are killing me at this point. So I was definitely struggling. I still had water, but I didn't want to overdrink my water because I didn't want to have to pee, like trying to just stay comfortable. Everyone is drunk. It's very sweaty. It's very tight. Thankfully it's cooler, but like it's a little uncomfortable at this point, but we're sticking through it. I was like, okay, we got a couple of hours left and we were done. So they ended and they were on the right stage. We kind of made our way up, but in the left stage. So we watched them on the left screens so that we'd be perfectly positioned for MCR. I wish we would have gone even further up. I was too scared and that worked against me. I really thought people were going to like push, that it was going to feel suffocating. I've heard on the recaps that people who were even closer to the front the first day, it was that way, pretty insane. And people felt like they were literally being squished and suffocated. Whereas on the second day, it wasn't as bad. So we didn't have as much of that experience, but we were in a decent spot. My husband could see the stage really well. I could not, but I did see the screen and was able to kind of catch glimpses. Their set, they definitely did more of an artistic set. So they did the Black Parade all the way through, did not come out in like the Black Parade marching band outfits and like that approach, which is what I think some of us kind of thought, maybe expected. But instead, they came out all dressed in all black, more classic. And then they had this white sheet, basically. And some people have interpreted it as it being kind of like a hospital room, very sterile, but it was black and white. And then they had a play of the lighting with like shadows. So even on the screen, it wasn't always like Gerard's face or the band's face. Like it wasn't as much of the performance as much as it was like the artistic expression from the performance. So it was the shadow work and different lighting that showed up on the screens, which is a little sad when you can't see the actual stage. So I felt like I missed half of the performance because I was only seeing what I was able to see. And we were so tight that I was literally trying to stand on my tippy toes. Feet are killing me. jumping where I but could barely move from a space. This is where someone threw up like basically on the ground around me, and I had to like try to escape, but trying to pull a 6'4" man behind me was tricky. He was stepping in front of people because of me, and like it was a little bit tricky, but it was an experience that I'm so incredibly glad that I got to experience, because even if I did miss some of it, like that performance was iconic, and it opened the door to, My Chemical Romance announcing the return of the Black Parade. Is it going to be the Black Parade kind of reunion anniversary situation? Is there a new album coming? There's a lot of theories now, but this was like the open door to that, which made everyone very interested of like, wait, what is this next era of My Chemical Romance? What is this tour going to be like? And we're going, of course. But I'm glad that we didn't know about it beforehand, because I would have never gone to when we were young. And that was really the thing that pushed me. That was the catalyst. And I'm incredibly glad, because I have a new appreciation for festivals, truly was able to experience it fully and have fun with it and be fully present in it without missing out. I didn't hold myself back beyond a day to remember, but I'm even proud that I did what I needed to do for myself, and I got to experience it. And overall, the experience of the crowds, like people, it felt pretty safe. Like I didn't feel like I was overall in danger. I'm sure there was theft, and like there was probably a lot that was going on. I think having a clear head, being prepared, having my husband there, right behind me at all times, like that definitely helped. But we were smart about like where we put our possessions and stuff like that, what we brought with us, all those things. But at the end of the day, like I felt amazing after they finished, MCR was done. We actually just walked back to our hotel. It was, I think, like a mile and a half or something. And even though our feet were killing us, it was better than trying to get to the train. And I think the train maybe was done. I don't remember exactly why we did it that way, but it just seemed a little bit better, and kind of that last push. So we walked back to the hotel. We ordered pizza on our way because we were starving at this point. Had pizza delivered to our room, and we were up really, really late. I think we went to bed at like 3 a.m. or something, which is not like us. But the next day, we were able to go to it's like a rooftop pool space that plays like sports games and stuff. It was my husband's birthday. We planned to do just a pool day at the hotel. The pool was closed that day, so we just booked this day at this pool. They played soccer, which was what he loves, and that was fun. It was like hot tub and a pool. So we just completely relaxed and then came home that evening, which was great. It was a really nice way to kind of recover after all of it, even if we didn't necessarily sleep well. We didn't get sick. We didn't feel terrible. Again, we didn't drink, so we weren't hungover or anything, but it was fun. I would do it again, minus like the price of it and the travel. I would not be excited about going back to Vegas. It was cool to see all the emo kids everywhere, and like some of the hotel that we walked through to get to the festival grounds. So the one that was connected to the train, they had like the emo music playing in their casino as we walked through, and like that was cool. I would say the Emo's Not Dead cruise was more fun in that regard because it was cleaner and everything was emo focused. But Vegas as a whole, like you could see like the emo influence. There were a lot of like pop-up events. The Vans Warped Tour team, they were promoting their comeback. And so they had some events like a barbecue you could go to, there were some different things that were going on that you could be involved in that we didn't take advantage of. And that might have brought it together more. Like we truly tried to conserve our energy to just being there at the festival. Like, I don't know if we could have even done what we did for 2 days in a row. Like it was nice just having that one day, but the price point for just one day is very high and hard to justify. And even with the lineup this year, Panic at the Disco returning, Green Day, Blink-182, like it's a great lineup. And if we had the opportunity to go maybe for free or discounted, we probably would. But we definitely didn't sign up right away or say that we were going to go back. I think we would do the cruise again and again and again over this, just because it's a little bit more comfortable, a little bit easier to navigate overall. And the price point, I feel like matches a little bit better to what you're getting compared to when we were young. And it'll be interesting to see how it evolves and how price maybe changes or their approach changes with the return of Warped Tour, because it's kind of a lot of the same bands. So I'm interested to see if like how it sells out and the crowds as a whole, like how that shifts next year with both of those festivals going on. So that was my experience with when we were young. If you have any questions about any of the other parts of it, I'm happy to share. I don't have a lot to share from it beyond that, but it was a great experience in terms of the bands. Like every set, I tried to rate the sets in a social post, and it was really hard to rate them because truly most of them were like 8 to 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, because the band showed up, the energy was high, like they performed with all their heart, even if they had to perform an old album all the way through. Like the crowds were fun, like people were singing the songs, like it was so much fun. And I found myself like in the moment, like truly being present and just having fun with it. And that's, I think, something that I've really appreciated about concerts the older I get, is just that experience to simply be present, let everything else fall away for an hour and sing my heart out and just have fun with a group of strangers that are also having fun. And that being the only purpose of that moment. And that is something that is really special as you're older and things aren't always as fun. And being present can be really hard. So that was my biggest takeaway. And I just renewed a sense of love for concerts through that festival. So, very positive experience for me. And if you went or you go this year, you've gone in previous years, and you want to share your experience, please do. You can come on the podcast if you'd like. You would just email me in the show notes. You'll see my email. You can also reach out to me on Instagram, share there if you would like, and let's talk about it. Talk about our experiences and the fun we have. Or if you have a festival that you enjoy more, share it so that we can share it with everyone else. Because life is too short not to just have fun and not experience the music that we love in the way that we want to. Simply put, that is it for today's episode. Short and sweet. Hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you in the next class.